In and around the watch game for 40 years, worked in professional boxing, professional football. 3 out of 5 customers on the phone were trying to defraud me. Micheal Jackson.
Oh, they bought watches off you?
I advised them on some watches. They were at the window, fully armed, knives this time. You're not a proper watch dealer unless you've had a gun stuck under your nose. Took a gun out the cabinet, didn't even have time to put more than 1 cartridge in the gun. I went back out, I let it go in the ceiling. Once I'd been robbed, then I started to open my eyes as to what the old bill were really all about. The police looked at the address and went, we can't go there without a firearms risk assessment and it ain't in our budget. I've lost 3 friends in this business. All I really remember at this point was hitting the remote and a massive smash on the side of my face. The old bill on the radio saying that a 54-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the robbery in the jewellers. But that 54-year-old man was me. The only place that a fake watch has is as a decoy at your home. I'd love to see my grandkids brought up in a country that remains the country that we were brought up in, and where they're not second-class citizens. We've lost our way big time.
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast, and this episode is proudly brought to you by Betovo. Before we get stuck into this week's episode, we're going to give a big shout out to our sponsors.
This season's podcast is brought to you by Superstar Speakers Events. They are the UK's #1 destination for exclusive live experiences. These guys don't just put on events, they deliver unforgettable nights with some of the biggest names in sports, entertainment and beyond. From jaw-dropping Q&A sessions to meet and greets and unmissable stage interviews, they bring you face-to-face with the icons you love. Whether it's football legends spilling the secrets of the beautiful game or entertainment stars sharing untold stories, Superstar Speakers knows how to create memories that last a lifetime. And here's the big news. I'll be teaming up with them for an evening with Terry Stone, a live tour you won't want to miss. Head over to superstarspeakers.co.uk for dates, details and tickets. Massive thanks to Superstar Speakers for supporting our podcast. Please go check out their up-and-coming events now and book yourself a night to remember. Click on the link below and get involved.
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name is Terry Stone, and today we're joined by a legend from the watch game. His name's Paul Thorpe. He's had 4 decades in the watch game. He's had his shop done twice. He's been attacked in the street. He's now retired. He's become a political activist, and he's all about uniting everybody in the UK and making Britain great again. Welcome our very own British version of Donald Trump. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good, Terry. Lovely to meet you,
Can
brother.
I call you Donald?
You call me, mate, listen, you call me whatever you like. Most people just call me, well, I can't tell you what they call me, but...
No, I just thought, obviously, when you said about making Britain great again, I just had to put that in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Mate, I'm just amazed. I'm waiting for Jeremy Beadle to jump up from behind your chair in a minute and tell me what a lemon I am for believing I'm even here. You know what I mean?
I don't know how to break this, but you know he's dead, right?
Oh, yeah.
The spirit of Jeremy Beadle.
Show me age now, mate.
No, but honestly, Paul, it's great to have you on. I've obviously seen your own sort of social media YouTube channel, but obviously, you know, when I grew up, you know, when you had any level of success, the holy grail was to buy a watch, right? And, you know, I went through that journey from being a kid, walking around, and I lived on a council estate, walking around the town centre, looking in F.H. Hines, and there was another one, Ernest Jones, looking in the window. And I think back then it was about Gucci watches, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, I've got to have a Gucci watch, you know. So that was my entry into the watch game. But it's not about me, it's about you. And I'd love to hear, you know, a little bit about where you grew up and what led you into getting into the watch game.
In the watches. Well, I was born and bred in South London. Went to school on a pretty rough council estate. I've said it before, you know, that I went to school with a load of sexual deviants and monsters, and that was just the teachers, you know. So I grew up the hard way, but I come from a lovely family. You know, I had a great mum and dad. They were top people. Right. My dad was into his watches, amongst other things, and it sort of kind of took me eye. And I realised that there was money in it, Terry, if I'm honest.
And if you go back to, you said your dad was in watches, because obviously lots of people now will know that the brands like Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, people know what the brands are now. But back then, was it just literally about having a gold watch, or was it a brand thing?
It weren't so much a brand thing back then. Right. It was more a businessman's aspirational thing. Not so much about the brands. Very few people really knew about watches back then, to be honest with you. If you wanted to reach your customer base, you was handwriting letters.
Right.
You weren't reaching the world. But I grew up, understanding from a very early age that watches were a thing to aspire to, that they were something to appreciate. My dad was a good businessman. The watches weren't his only thing, bless him. And, I grew up understanding that there was money to be made. Coming from South London, I grew up in a school where none of us really had any hope, Terry. We had to make our own way in life. We was either going to go to prison or we was going to make a success of our lives. There was no real middle ground. And I think most of the boys went the right way. I mean, most of the lads I went to school with now, they're millionaires.
Yeah.
They're scaffolders, they're they got all different kind of what you would call working class industries. Right. And they've made their money. Waste paper, scaffolding, car dealers. So we all grew up in a rough environment, but they've done all right, and I'm real proud of them for that,
Amazing. So obviously you're seeing your dad's watch, and you're inspired to, there's money in that watch. How do I do it? What was the journey from sort of having that inspiration and having a love for the watches? Yeah. I bet you ended up with one of them little Casio ones with a calculator.
Do you know what, mate? My first decent watch was actually a Timex when I was about 5 or 6.
Right.
But no, to be honest with you, look, I've always loved the watches. But let's be honest, let's have it right. We all like the money. There's, if you're going to make your way in life and you want a nice car, you want the girls, you want your first gaff, you need money.
That's what was it? Tony Montana said that, didn't he? First you get the money, then you get the mower.
Then
exactly.
You get the body. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's be honest, whatever walk of life you're in, it's probably right, isn't it? So I see that my dad was doing all right, and he said, come on, we do the odd watch here and there, and it just grew from there, really. And, I saw that this was a great industry with a lot of nice people. It would get me into areas that I perhaps otherwise wouldn't normally get, social circles wise.
Right.
And that's what happened. It led to a lot of other things, which we'll get into.
So when you did you actually start off literally just by word of mouth? I'm doing watches now, and then you built up a little business.
Yeah.
And then when did you actually open your first shop?
Oh, do you know what? I was mostly an online or person-to-person business for years. And I think I opened up, my family had a shop back in the 70s. But I didn't open my first physical premises until about 2007.
Wow.
I didn't need one.
Wow. I suppose if you can build it up, and like you said, it's word of mouth. People know you can get them the watch. Yeah. They ring you up, go, can you get me one of them? You deliver it. It's. I suppose you were like the Uber for watches. Right?
Well, I had a little office like this.
Right.
And I used to be able to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd pick up my phone. There'd be 5 messages saying, can we come and see a watch today? I'd go to the office, spend 2 hours in the office, earn a nice few quid and go home.
Right.
So I didn't need a shop. But about 2007, there or thereabouts, I decided, well, you know what? Before I retire, before I give all this up, I've got to try a shop.
And from a security aspect, like you said, obviously you did this like from the office. Was it literally just you had them on you, or did you have them in a safe?
No, no, I've always kept everything in a safe deposit box. So, some watch dealers won't thank me now if I go through the entire security process, because a lot of us share that process, but we don't carry stuff on us. If I'm meeting you with a watch today, that's the only watch that I'll be carrying.
Got it.
And I'll probably already have it on the premises before we meet.
Yeah. And, you then opened up your first shop. Was that in East Grinstead?
East Grinstead, yeah, in West Sussex,
okay.
yeah.
And what made you choose that rather than London? Was it just because you lived there? And
I lived there. I've always been a bit lazy, I always not lazy, but coming into London for me is a frigging nightmare.
You like walking to work in the morning?
I do, yeah. And even if I can walk, I'll still drive, I'm that sort of bloke,
Right.
But I thought I'll try a shop, see how it goes. And it was the best and the worst thing that I ever did, all rolled into one, because it bought me a whole new world of customers, but it also brought me a whole world of grief that I never imagined would happen, and that is what really changed my life. That's when I opened the shop. I had a great life until then. I mean, I'd worked in professional boxing for 4 years. I had a break. I worked in professional football for 4 years. I had a break from the watches. So I've been in and around the watch game for 40 years, but I've had an 8-year break in between that to do other things that I'm passionate about. I've always been a man that wants to earn money through a passion. If I believe in something, Terry, I'll put everything into it.
But I do say that if you're passionate about what you do, you never do a day's work.
Exactly, and I've worked my life like that. So I've been very, very lucky, very fortunate to have had careers that have led me into places where I'd never dream I'd be, meeting people that I never thought I'd meet, and experiences I never thought I'd had. Certainly for a working class lad from South London.
So that's the good stuff. And like when you opened up the shop, obviously back now it's all about social media, but back then was it literally putting an advert in the Sunday Times or putting like high net worth sort of?
What, when I opened the shop?
Yeah.
Well, no, we had the internet, obviously. Right. We had the internet, and I was pretty well known. My shop was, I'd worked in football, I'd worked in boxing, so I was attracting some pretty high net worth clients, some pretty well known clients.
Yeah.
That used to like coming to where my shop was because it was quite private, which kind of led to my downfall in the end as well, it being a little bit out of the way.
Who are your sort of famous clients that people would know? You have to tell us what watches they bought, but just the ones.
I can't tell the names, mate.
Okay.
The thing is, you put them in danger.
Right.
That's the problem. I mean, I'll give you an example.
Is there any that are dead that you can talk about?
Any that are dead? Yeah. Micheal Jackson.
Oh, he bought watches off you.
Well, I advised him on some watches.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But I'll
Did
give
he
you,
moonwalk into your shop?
He didn't. No, I actually met him at Fulham when I worked at Fulham.
Right.
But
how did you meet Micheal Jackson? I mean,
how does a boy from South London meet Micheal Jackson? So
that's actually the headline.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So back in the 90s, I'm a Fulham supporter. I've been going to Fulham all my life, and one of my very good friends worked at Harrods Estates. Now, when Fulham got sold back in the 90s, Mohamed Al-Fayed was with my friend who used to run Harrods Estates, and he said to Mr Al-Fayed, he said, "Why don't you buy my football club?" And he said, "What football club's that?" He said, "Fulham." He said, "It's only down the road." And cut a long story short, that's how Mohamed Al-Fayed ended up buying Fulham. When he bought Fulham, he said to my friend, "So who am I going to get to run this place? I need people that know the club." And he said, "Well, I've got a lad that I know you can trust. He's an out-and-out Fulham boy. You can bring him in. He'll do whatever you want him to do." That was me.
Right.
Now, I'm dealing watches, but I thought, you know what? I'm not going to turn the chance down to go and work for my boyhood football club, to work with Kevin Keegan, Ray Wilkins, all the players that he was bringing in at the time, and go and meet Mohamed Al-Fayed, the new owner of the football club. He's flying from Harrods to Craven Cottage in an helicopter.
Wow.
I'm having some of that, you know.
Yeah. So you become like the Gareth Southgate at Fulham, did you?
Well, not on the playing side so much. I mean, look,
right.
Let's be clear. I went in there and my title was internet manager. They had to give me a title.
Right.
But I had meetings with Mr Al-Fayed very early on, and we clicked. For some reason, we just clicked.
What was he like? Because
really, a really nice guy.
Because I used to see him, because obviously being from South London as well.
Yeah.
When you went to Harrods, it was like all the posh people go to Harrods. You know what I mean? You got to go to Harrods, even if you don't buy anything. Just walk around. And I always used to see him, and he'd always be very proud. He'd always strut around the Harrods. He'd always be talking to people. He'd always look like he was. I don't know if that was for show, but he looked like he was right in it.
He loved to be loved.
Right.
He wanted to be appreciated. He wanted to be liked, and he loved nothing more than to be loved. And I found something in Mr Al-Fayed. I still to this day call him the boss because that's what he was. He was the boss, right? And what I found with him is that actually he was a very sincere individual. He had a heart of gold. He was a ruthless businessman. You don't get to owning Harrods,
right,
for virtually for free. I mean, do you know how we acquired Harrods?
No.
So the House of Fraser and Harrods is up for sale. So he goes back to his mate, the Sultan of Brunei. Let's just say...
As you do.
As you do. Let's just say, I don't know what the figures was, but let's say Harrods and the House of Fraser was 500 million, say. He's gone to the Sultan of Brunei, said, do you want to buy the House of Fraser for 500 million? So he gets Harrods for nothing.
Right.
You know, basically he got Harrods for free.
Right.
So he was a ruthless businessman, but he was also a man with a heart of gold. He gave more money to kids' charities than I've ever owned in my life.
Right.
You know, I've seen him bring sick kids in, get them the best treatment, no publicity. He was a man with a big heart, in my opinion. But we hit it off, and he used to get me to keep my eye on things that was happening around the football club. At one stage, I was the second highest paid member of staff apart from the players.
Wow.
So behind the managing director of the football club, I was the highest paid member of staff, not including the players, of course.
And obviously, being that in a football club, did you ever have any dramas or grief down there, or was it?
Oh, mate, all sorts of things, like weird stuff, you know what I mean? Like from... Can I mention him? Let's just say, I'll give you a clue. A very famous male pop star that is often in Las Vegas.
Right.
Good-looking lad, right? You know, being caught in the changing rooms at Craven Cottage with a bit of crumpet and, you know, all sorts of stuff, you know. I mean, look, meeting the players, I mean, there's not a top-class player from the 90s, early 2000s that I didn't meet. The managers that I met, Terry Venables, Bobby Robson, Sam Allardyce, you know, all the top managers.
Right.
And a lot of the showbiz people that would be around Al-Fayed.
Right.
I
suppose for him, I bet the director's box was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It was very interesting. You never know who was going to be there.
Because he had a statue of Micheal Jackson outside, didn't he?
He did, yeah, for a while, which I've got to be honest with you, we weren't too impressed with. But
right. What was behind that? Because it's an odd thing, isn't it?
I think he was showing his loyalty to Micheal Jackson.
Right.
You know, it's that love thing again. If someone loves him and he's loyal to him.
Imagine if you own a football club, you'd have a bust yourself, or you'd have a bust of the greatest manager of the club. But Micheal Jackson was
It's a bit weird, wasn't it?
An odd choice to go. I'll have was it a bronze?
No, it was just some ugly looking thing, really. Right. I mean, to be honest with you, it looked like it had been knocked up by the local school, you know. Right. But I mean, look, we weren't going to moan because the man had pumped millions of pounds into his own money into taking our club from the bottom tier of English football to the Premier League.
Was Michael involved in the club as well?
Nah.
Right, okay. But he got invited down, I suppose.
Yeah, he'd turn up, you know, in his scarf and that, and with his security and that. But look, at the end of the day, it was a great period in my life, really interesting. I learned a lot.
And was that how Micheal Jackson ended up in this?
Yeah. Well, I've turned up at Craven Cottage one Saturday afternoon. We used to turn up about midday for the game, 11:30, for a 3 o'clock kick-off, get prepared for match day, and about 1 o'clock. Can't remember who it was now. Someone said, you best go upstairs, Thorpe, and have a look who's upstairs in the cottage.
Did he give you a hee-hee?
No, I'll tell you what, honestly, you know, that was a surreal moment.
It must have been. I mean, because we recently had Matt Fidesz, who was Micheal Jackson's bodyguard for a while, and he got very close to Michael, and he said, obviously, the public perception of him was just all made up and bollocks, you know, and when you actually met him in real life, he didn't walk around going like that. He actually had quite a deep voice. Yeah. I mean, what was your experiences of him?
Well, I only met him for about half an hour, so it's hardly a life story, but he seemed very nice. You know, he asked me about watches, and we spoke about watches for 15, 20 minutes, and I was in his
he was
company.
actually interested. He was...
Yeah. But he was wearing a Casio, funnily enough.
Right.
But...
There you go. We have a Criminal Connection exclusive. Micheal Jackson owned a Casio watch. Was it the calculator one, or was it just a digital one?
It was just like a very plain, basic Casio. I couldn't tell you what model it is because I'm not a Casio man.
Right.
Not if it was a Rolex, I'd know exactly what it was.
Right. Did you meet his boy Dodi as well?
I didn't meet him.
Right.
No, I didn't ever met Dodi, but I was with Al-Fayed shortly after that tragic accident.
Right.
That destroyed him.
Right.
You know, I mean, that was horrible. I knew another son. He's got another son called Kareem that was at the club. I got to meet him and knew him not well, but I knew him to say hello to.
Yeah.
I used to go to Al-Fayed's home in Oxted, so he didn't live far. He didn't live far from me.
Right.
I lived in East Grinstead. He lived in Oxted, which is 15 minutes.
Right.
I have a love of horses. He had a love of horses.
Right.
So you know, we had something in common.
And obviously, when that happened, he was very vocal, wasn't he, about, you know, they'd been murdered and, you know, it wasn't an accident. And he was campaigning and campaigning and campaigning for justice, which, you know, and he had all these conspiracy theories that he was throwing around. I mean, what was your view on it? I mean, being close to him.
I'd just say consider this, right? Mohamed Al-Fayed, I don't know how long he lived here, but he'd lived here for many decades. He employed thousands of people. He paid billions of pounds in tax. He was an exemplary citizen, and he never had a British passport.
Wow.
They never, ever gave him a British passport. Consider that by comparison today, and they give British passports away like confetti. You know, you walk into the shop and you pretty much buy one, right? But Mohamed Al-Fayed wasn't able to get a British passport. I think he was very bare. He wanted to be British. He wanted that passport desperately. He fought with the establishment. Now, I'm a bit of a royalist. I'm a bit of a fan of especially the Queen. I love the Queen.
She was an amazing lady.
She was an amazing lady. I'm not so fond of Charles, but I've got to be honest with you, my biggest ambition was to meet the Queen.
Right.
I never did. But
I met the Queen once. She came to one of her raves.
Wow.
Obviously, it was a lookalike.
I was going to say, there's a joke coming here. Yeah.
But honestly, it was the funniest thing ever because I was putting his rave on, and someone said to me, you know, why don't you do some funny stuff? Because obviously back then there was no internet, right? Well, there was internet, but not social media, right? And I just thought, what a funny thing to do. So I went online, and there is this Queen lookalike that looks like speaks like an absolute ringer. If you see her, you'd think that's the Queen, right? So I think it was, I can't remember how much it was, but I got them to come at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the car pulls up outside Bentley. The guy gets out with the hat on. I've got a couple of my security guys come over, and then she gets out of the car. She's got the crown on. And I walked.
What's the reaction?
No, but it was funny because there was about 1,000 people all queuing up outside the club. And obviously 1 o'clock in the morning, people are like mangled, didn't they, right? So the Queen's walking up and down the queue, looking around. And you can see people in the queue just looking at her. And she's going, is this one of those rave parties? You can see people going, this ain't happening. What, somebody's put something in my drink, you know what I mean? But then we took her in. So we walked her up the crowd, and then we took her in the rave. And then we got these like CDs, because we used to do CDs, like music albums. And we got her to go around. So people on the dance floor jumping around dancing, get a tap on the shoulder, and then she's like, would you like one of these? And you can see the guys going,
what have I taken?
Walked her around, then got on the stage, stopped the music, she did a speech. But it was the funniest thing I've ever done. And it was, what was great was, and you know, people were ringing me the next day going, sometime with the Queen was at your thing last night. What is going? How'd you get the Queen to come to the rave? And it was just this thing, and it was like folklore, but it was funny. And what it did was it was like the social media at the time. You know, if that had been on Instagram, we'd have got 1 million views. You know what I mean?
Oh, brilliant!
It was funny. It was funny. But
I'd love to have met her.
Me too, because you know she was one of them people that you talk about Great Britain, and it was her, wasn't it? Really,
yeah.
And it didn't matter who was in power, what political parties, but she was the sort of figurehead, really, that everyone
the
looked up
respect
to.
of everyone, I think, the love and respect of most people. You know, She was everyone's second mum, wasn't she? If you like, you know. And I was gutted when she died, you know. But
the whole nation. I mean, we went to Windsor Castle and paid their respects and put some flowers down. And I've never seen so many flowers and so many people, like hundreds of thousands of people, like a day, just going there. I mean, there must have been tens of millions of people over the week before and after. You know.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, as I say, I'm not such a fan of Charles, but you know, give him a chance.
Yeah.
But the football period in my life was amazing. A lot of fun. I've got to say, probably was more educational than the 4 years that I spent in professional boxing. Right. From a learning viewpoint, because I was around a lot of business people.
Right.
You know, high flying business people. When I was in the world of boxing, which was earlier in my life, that was just fun. That was just out and out.
So the boxing was before the football.
Yeah, the boxing was in the 80s, yeah.
But before we touch on that, like obviously with the Al-Fayed thing, and you said obviously that destroyed him. Did he ever talk to you privately about, you know, what had happened? Or did he just, or do you think there was so much stuff around it, he was looking to blame somebody?
I think he wanted answers. I think he wanted someone to blame. I think he was a man grieving.
Yeah.
And I said this before. The only thing that I ever lied to him about, and I did it out of the goodness of my heart, was he asked me one day if I believed that there was more to that than met the eye, and I agreed with him that there was.
Right.
And I didn't really believe that.
Right.
But I didn't want to upset him. It's the only thing that I ever lied to him about.
Right.
But I considered it to be a white lie. You know, it was like, it wasn't malicious. But I didn't have the art to sit there and say, you know what, you got to let this go.
There were a few things around it that didn't add up, and I think from his perspective, because people would say, "Oh, he's gone nuts, he's saying all this stuff," and then other people would say, "Well, maybe he's got a point." You know, there was this kind of like polarized view. You know, is there anything in what he's saying? Is there not? But you know, I've got friends of mine who are special forces, and when I say special forces, parachute regiment, Marines,
Yeah.
SAS, SBS,
Yeah.
and you know, obviously one of the guys who was the bodyguard, you know, this guy who was driving, was it Henry Paul or somebody, was meant to be like pissed out of his face, and the reality is, if the driver had turned up in that mess, the bodyguard would be going, "You ain't fucking driving, mate." Do you know what I mean? And that would have been the end of it, right? And
There are a lot of questions.
and that is part one, and part two is when they get in the car, the close protection would be like, put your seatbelts on, right? You can go. There's a protocol to it all, right? And the fact that he was the only one with a seatbelt on, again, it's just like there's things that were weird.
Don't add up.
And I think, you know, from Al-Fayed's perspective, you know, if you're a billionaire, you know, he's going to know people. He's going to probably have some ex-special forces or some police people working for him, or, you know, people that he relies on for business advice. And, you know, if you're that high profile, you'd know the reason there's a bodyguard there, especially for Princess Diana, because she was obviously a high profile person. But I don't necessarily believe, you know, in some of the narratives that were being thrown around, but that part of it was a bit odd. And I think because of that part, that then fueled the conspiracy theories and made people go, well, hang on a minute.
Sure, I get it.
Why did you let that happen? Why?
I get it. I've watched every documentary. I've watched and I've probably seen stuff that other people haven't seen.
Right.
What
But
I
your
would-
personal view on it was that it was just an accident.
Well, I came to this conclusion after seeing everything I've seen that's available to the public, after being involved in conversations with Al-Fayed and his team that probably haven't been made public. My conclusion was simple. Did the state conspire to kill Princess Diana? And did they, and if that was true, even if it was true, what a way to try and do it in a car crash. Because A, it's not guaranteed, right? B, it's a very difficult thing to get someone who go, I'll be the driver, right? I mean, you know, come on, right? I mean, look, I just came to the conclusion that it was an accident. Any accident, it's like, you remember that program, was it Seconds from Disaster?
Right.
They used to say that there's a series of different things that come together to make up any disaster. If it's a plane crash, you know, there's a bit of rubbish on the runway, the wheel hits the rubbish, blah, 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 blah. All those things happened that night. The bottom line is we had a driver that was travelling too fast, who'd had a bit of a drink, was travelling too fast, lost control of the car, and there was a terrible, tragic car accident.
I also think as well, you know, and again, I'm talking about what I know to be true, right? But the thing is, if that guy had been working with Dodi for a while, and if Dodi had said, you know, if he'd have said, look, you know, the guy, I don't want a guy to drive, he could have said, listen, shut your mouth, you work for me, be quiet, he's fine. He could have, nobody's party to those conversations, so nobody knows actually what happened. But I think because of those things, that's what added to the conspiracy theories, you know? Whereas if yeah, but if you'd have had the whole conversation where you knew what was said, and obviously the guy, the I think he's a parachute regiment guy.
Yeah.
He actually, yeah, he said, you know, he suffered memory loss from the accident. But again,
Here's the thing.
he was in the accident, so you know, you'd think that if it was being set up, he would have gone, oh, I've just got to go and just got to use the toilet.
Yeah.
Oh dear, they've left without me. Do you know what I
We
mean?
go back to one of the reasons that I got on so well with Al-Fayed. I was prepared to tell him no. I was prepared to say that's not a good idea.
Right.
I think that's a mistake. You're not doing the right thing. And the big problem for Al-Fayed was nobody ever wanted to say no to him.
Right.
He likes people to say yes. He liked people to agree with him. But that wasn't always in his best interest.
Right.
You know, there were times when he would say he was going to do something and I'd go, are you really going to do that? Right. Think about it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
People are going to dislike you for that. That's not what you want. And he'd go, you're right. But I don't know what happened that night. I wasn't there. But if the driver didn't want to drive and Dodi's gone, no, come on, let's get out of here. You didn't say no to the Al-Fayeds.
Yeah, but that's the other bit that people don't realise. So, again, that's what I was saying, you know, if you're not in that loop, you go, why would he let him drive? Why wouldn't he do something? But then obviously you're not there, so you don't know.
You don't know.
And like you said, if they're thinking they're going to lose their jobs, they just go, okay.
Everyone needed to look after their position because they were a bit trigger happy with getting rid of people.
Right.
You know, 1 minute he'd have the whole Harrods organisation would be being run by Germans because he'd heard that the Germans were efficient. 6 months later, he's got the hump with them, so they're all out. And then he gets in the Americans, who he's been told are proactive.
Right.
You know, 6 months later, he's sick of them, so they're all gone. Then we got a load of Australians in who we're told are reliable.
Right.
You know, it could be a bit impulsive like that.
Right. And obviously, rewinding just before that, you was talking about obviously the boxing.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Was that?
Well, the boxing was a little bit different because always been a big fight fan.
Me too.
Used to, you know, I followed Frank Bruno from his first professional fight. Nigel Benn, I was very friendly with Nigel back in the day, a long time ago now, when he first turned pro. And I started an organisation that I think we called it the World Boxing Fan Association. We used to send newsletters out and get fans together, and we used to go to the boxing together. And I started to get to meet promoters. I was very friendly with Frank Maloney, worked quite closely with Frank.
Did you see him it coming? Because he obviously, because I met him as Frank.
Yeah.
And then about 3 or 4 months after I'd met him, he was Kelly.
Yeah.
And I thought this has got to be a wind up because he for anybody who doesn't know Frank Maloney or no one had met him beforehand, he was a proper South London geezer,
South London lad.
So when someone said, "Oh, he's transitioning, he's going to be Kelly," I thought it's just got to be. He's got because he's so funny, and he was always up for a laugh. There's always banter with him, and I thought he's in a minute he's just doing this as a wind up.
Yeah.
But then it was like, no, he really has. And then when I see him, I was like, wow, you know, good for you. You know
he was
what I mean?
more gangland, South London, and transitional, wasn't he? You know,
Yeah,
what I mean,
if you know, like if you met somebody and you thought they were either in the wrong body or they could change sex, he was probably the last person in the world that you'd ever think, oh, it'd be him. Do you know what I mean? But the fact that he did it, I mean, fair play. He's still Kelly now, isn't he? I mean, I haven't seen him, I haven't seen her since she's been Kelly for.
No, I haven't. No.
I mean, is Kelly still promoting? Or
No. The last time I spoke to Frank, was when I was working at Fulham because he's a Millwall. You know, he's a Millwall fan.
Right.
And I said, Frank, do you want to come down and see Fulham play Millwall? Bring Lennox with you, Lennox Lewis. And that was the last time I spoke to him.
I always used to like it when he was at the Lennox fights. He always had the Union Jack suits on, didn't he?
Yeah. I like Frank. I've not known him since his transition to Kelly. I wish him all the best.
I'm sure he's still the same. I'm sure he's still the
love.
same. I'm sure he's still the same, but he's just Kelly now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know,
still
good luck. Good luck to her. Yeah. So, you know, but... Oh, we had some lovely time. But do you know the Phoenix Apollo? It used to be the Phoenix Apollo over in Leighton.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But that was the place. After the York Hall, Bethnal Green, some of the big shows we used to get over there. You had all the Page 3 girls. You had all the, you know, there was Jason Connery, Sean Connery's lad, and you had all the lads from London's Burn in that 1980s series. And I was getting in with that crowd over there, and it led me
the Freitas, wasn't it? Peter the Freitas. He was
Peter the Freitas, yeah. I knew Peter, yeah. He was running the door down there, and at the time, he went on to manage Nigel Benn, didn't he?
Yeah.
Later on.
And what was you doing in boxing then? What was you?
Well, initially, I was just really involved with getting supporters in, putting bums on seats.
Right.
And the promoters recognised this and thought, this geezer's a bit handy because he can sell tickets.
Right.
You sell tickets for promoters, you're their best mate, right? And I got to know most of the promoters, worked with them. I worked with Terry Marsh, fighting fireman. You know, we were sort of doing quite a bit together. But it all turned a bit.
I met Terry because I read his book, and obviously he got nicked for shooting Frank Warren, didn't he?
Allegedly.
No, but he got nicked for it.
Yeah.
But he got not guilty.
Yeah.
But because Frank Warren was shot, and then I don't quite know how his name got put up, but he had to go to court, didn't he?
Yeah.
And obviously because he was in the Marines, it was sort of like, you know.
That was a funny one.
Right.
Because at the time, Terry and I
Another conspiracy theory.
Well, we were good friends at the time. We were doing a lot of work together, and the old Bill were on it, and I was in the frog and nightgown in the old Kent Road. You'll probably remember the old frog and nightgown.
Monday special, yeah.
Oh yeah, love. We was probably in there at the same time at once. Mind you, I'm a bit older than you, but I used to love me night out in the old frog. They pulled me out the frog and nightgown one night, the police, and wanted to know. They weren't questioning me over it. They wanted to know if I knew anything about it because they knew that I'd worked or had a close association with Terry. And I told them the truth. I had no idea.
I suppose at the time, Terry Marsh had fell out with Frank Warren publicly, and there was some business thing, and then he obviously got shot. So it's like 2 + 2 is 4, isn't it? I mean, you know, and that's probably why.
That's the way they worked it out.
Yeah.
But to this day, you know, I have no idea. No idea. But, you know, Frank Warren, I only met him a couple of times, but he seems nice enough.
I think Frank did come out and say he knew who did it.
He knows.
But I don't think he's ever said publicly who it is.
Yeah, he'll know who did it. But that was a great period. I loved being around the boxing. I loved the fighters. They were brilliant. I mean, fighters are a different breed to me.
Yeah.
I have the ultimate respect for those guys because they literally know what it's like to go to the point of death and back.
Yeah.
And anyone that knocks even the lowest level fighters, well, they ain't taking that walk to the ring.
I think to be able to have any idea, you've got to get in. Yeah. Even if it's an amateur, getting in that ring, there's no way out.
Just walk to the ring, put a pair of gloves on, walk to the ring and get in there with your opponent.
See what happens. Yeah.
See what happens. See how you feel. Once you've done that, then that gives you the right to have an opinion about fighters.
Right.
But until you've done that, keep your mouth shut because they're a different breed and I have the ultimate respect for them.
Right. And you got any funny boxing stories you want to share with us?
Oh, mate. Watching John Conte go from a curry to sleeping in a cardboard box, you know. I mean, we've had some laughs, mate. We've had some cracks.
I like John, actually. I met him a few times.
He was a good lad. I mean, he'd have a few drinks, but he was
like an anomaly because he would fight and then he'd just go on a booze, wouldn't he? He'd go pissing it up, eating. Then he'd just like literally having a fight, go training.
But a lovely lad.
But I always like with boxers, you always sort of think, you know, to put your body through that, like you said, almost that near death experience, and then literally going on this massive bender for like a few days, and then you come back and you do it all again. I mean, you've got to be made of some serious minerals to be able to.
Oh yeah,
do that,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
A couple of ones for you that come to mind. Michael Buffer, you know Michael Buffer. Let's get rid of the rumble. So I'm looking after Michael Buffer for the afternoon, and he's upstairs in his room, and he's wanted. He's late or whatever. And
Was he going, Paul? Can you come up to my bedroom?
That's it. Well, I'm going up there now. I don't know about Michael Buffer.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Do you think he could be ready to rumble?
I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, but I didn't want to find out.
Right.
But it's running through my mind, Terrell. You know what I mean? It is running through my mind.
Was that just because he was so polite? Because he's a gentleman, isn't he?
Very
well dressed, manicured.
Manicured and all that. And we're going back, you know, to the 80s and things were a little bit... I mean, I was always, like, quite well manicured, but not to that point.
Right.
You know, and it just went through my mind.
Right.
I wouldn't want to share the bathroom, you know. That's Michael, I'm sure you're a lovely man. You know. So anyway, I've gone up, knocked on his door. He's opened the door, he's standing there in a towel. Now I'm nervous.
He didn't say,
Paul, come in. We're getting ready to rumble.
And we was with Ernie Shavers. Do you remember Ernie
Yeah,
Shavers?
of course.
The big black heavyweight.
well, he was
massive
what's he,
man.
20 stone? He was a big guy, wasn't he?
Huge man.
Right.
And I thought, I've got to go and get Ernie as well because he's late and all.
Right.
So I've dropped a shoulder,
Right.
gone 4 or 5 doors up, knocked on the door for Ernie. Ernie's opened the door. Now, he used to shave his head
Right.
with a razor, right? I've knocked on the door. He's opened the door. He's also standing there naked, apart from a white towel round his waist.
And then you felt better. Then you thought, okay, this is what happens. Everyone's got white towels
Exactly,
on.
right? But his head was completely white because he'd put all the foam on his head.
Well, he was a ferocious fighter as well, wasn't
Ferocious, heaviest puncher ever.
he? Yeah.
And every time we ate, he'd go, "We've got to say the Lord's Prayer," and we had to do what he wanted. So we'd have to sit there and do the Lord's Prayer, not the Lord's Prayer, grace. That was it, grace.
Right.
But another great experience. A good man with a big heart. You know, was honoured to have him over here.
Yeah.
And he was fun. Roberto Duran we brought over.
He's amazing as well, wasn't he?
He was a nutter. Got off the plane. He went champagne, women. That was it.
I mean, you know, when you're a boxing legend like that, I think you can get away with it.
you like,
know what I
don't
mean?
you?
Yeah, do you like it?
So, like, he went into the Kazi. I believe it was the Frog and Nightgown.
Right.
You know, I'm sure we took him to the Frog and Nightgown, and he bashed someone up in the Kazi
Right.
because I think they'd asked him for his autograph or got a bit overly friendly in the toilet,
Right.
and he didn't like it,
Right.
and he gave him a dig,
Wow.
which
You wouldn't want to dig off him either, would you?
no,
The old hands of stone.
we had to get him out, you know.
Right.
But
But it was a
fun.
bit lively in there, wasn't it?
It could be. My favourite night was the talent night when you used to get all the people from South London who couldn't sing for toffee but thought they could,
Right.
and they get up there.
That was before the X Factor.
That was before the X Factor. Simon Cowell, I'll tell you, mate, you had nothing on the Frog and Night.
I reckon he might have been there and he might have been inspired by that.
could have been. Could
I
have
reckon
been.
so.
Those were the days. Mate. Those were the days. But good, yeah.
Brilliant.
It was a
Brilliant.
good time.
Amazing. Well, I've really enjoyed hearing about the boxing and the football, but we should go back into the watches.
Yeah. Mentioning names, you know, you go to like Arsenal Football Club recently, their player liaison manager spoke to all their players and said, do not put your watches on social media. Whatever you've got, keep it quiet. Don't be giving it all this, you know, pictures with your Rolex, with your dinner and all that in the local restaurant, because the criminals are targeting it.
Well, there's a story. There's a famous Italian restaurant in Cobham, and a lot of footballers go there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it was this year or last year, but some guys went in there, 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Friday night, shut the door. Everybody put your watches and your rings and went round with a bag and like robbed the whole restaurant. And yeah, you know, Cobham's like a posh place,
Yeah,
right?
Cobham's nice area, yeah.
And you know, I've heard about this happening all around the world. You know, it's not just in the British.
It's everywhere, Terry. It's everywhere. I mean, look, part of my life since I retired from the watch business has been to try and halt the advance of watch crime. That's what my YouTube channel was originally about.
Right.
About trying to end watch crime, trying to warn people of the dangers of wearing the luxury watch, where to wear it, when to take it off, be aware of your surroundings, telling them about the means of operation of the bad guys, because I'd experienced it all. And I did my best, you know, for sort of 3-4 years, I did my best. I think I've saved a lot of people from being robbed.
Right.
I've helped a lot of people. I worked with the Met, I've worked with the New York City Police Department, I've been out to LA, I've been all over the place, you know, dealing with law enforcement and advising them, working with media. What actually decided me to go, you know what, screw this, I've had enough, was actually the BBC.
Right.
You know, I worked with Sky, with the BBC, and the BBC came to me and said, we want to do a proper documentary on watch crime. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Right.
Will you be our advisor? And I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do that, but you got to tell the story.
Yeah.
You know, no messing about. I want the truth, you know. And they said, what is the truth? And I told them the truth, and they went, okay. So I helped them over a few weeks with this documentary. When it came out, complete load of bullshit.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm done now. I'm done. You know, I don't do this no more because the mainstream media are constantly lying. They're hiding the truth. They're not telling people what's going on.
I mean, what'd be nice, Paul, before we get into, because what you've touched on now, I think our viewers and listeners will be fascinated by. But I'm just wondering whether we should talk about that and then talk about your experiences with the shop. Should we do the shop first?
Wherever you want, mate.
Because what
Wherever
I'm
you
thinking is obviously you've opened
kind of
this-
leads into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because you've opened this shop, and obviously, you know, all my mates who have got I've got a lot of watch traders that are my pals. They've all got the electric, you know, shutters. They've all got the panic buttons. They've all got the door that you have to buzz and then wait and go in the airlock. You know, they've all got the stuff in the safe or not on the premises. So I kind of know how it all works.
Yeah.
But you know, you've opened the shop. Obviously, like you said, you've got celebrities. You've got footballers, boxers. You've got probably some wrong uns coming through buying watches.
Yeah.
You've obviously got the high net worths. But when would you say? You said you opened it in 2007.
Yeah, my first one. Yeah.
When would you say you first started to think it's going a bit funny here? Because watch crime, I'd say, probably since I mean, there's always been watch crime, right? But I'd say they talk about the pandemic, right? But the watch pandemic, I'd say, was sort of 2018 onwards.
Yeah.
That's when it got really bad. But obviously, when you're in your shop in 2007,
I'll give you a timeline.
that'd be great.
So about 2005, the fraud started to kick in. Now, when I say the fraud started to kick in, we used to take telephone sales. So you'd be able to ring me up, you'd order a watch, I'd send it to you. You pay me over the phone, you pay me with a bank transfer or a debit card or whatever, job done. The criminals picked up on this, and then they started using stolen cards. They started using fake bank accounts. They started using all the ways that criminals can get into the banking system without you being aware of it at that time.
Right.
I mean, now to take a credit card over the phone for a watch would be insanity.
Right.
But back then it was a regular thing. It was a regular deal. 6 out of 10 watches I sold were sold over the phone.
You phone up the credit card company and they'd say,
Exactly.
who is it?
Yeah.
Here's the address. Here's the person. Great. What's his password?
Exactly.
John. You know, and
But
then
Terry,
it's like,
it got
done.
to the point where the criminals, the gangs are so far into this that they've got people working inside the credit card companies themselves.
Right.
They're teaming up with people inside the banks. So the fraud started to kick in 2006, 7, 8, 9. It was really, really bad.
Right.
I would say at one stage, 3 out of 5 customers on the phone were trying to defraud me.
Wow.
That much.
It's like that. Hello? Not you again.
And the harsh truth of the reality is, some people might not like me for saying this, but it's the truth. I can't lie. 99% of them were people with foreign accents.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that British people weren't up to it.
Right.
One of the biggest frauds that I was a victim of was by a guy with a British accent.
Right.
But 99% of the attempts were foreign accented people.
Right.
So unfortunately, a foreign accent became a red flag, and that was really bad. That makes you feel bad.
Right. Right. Because then you start thinking, is this another one of them calls? Is this another scam?
Is it another scam? And they could be the nicest person in the world, but things started to get very complicated. And very quickly, you find yourself not trusting people in an industry where before trust was everything.
Did you actually get done? Like someone rung up, pretended they want to watch?
Yeah.
And then what happens? Does the bank then give you the money back? Or?
No.
Oh, so you actually get the full loss?
Yeah, you get the full loss. I had one instance where a guy had done me out of 2 watches in the space of a week. I knew where he lived. I knew everything about the guy. I mean, the address that he was given, that he gave me, was correct for him. Cutting the long story short, but you won't get the police out.
Right.
You won't get the police out here. We had another one with a guy in Tottenham with a load of jewellery. And when we told the police looked at the address and went, we can't go there without a firearms risk assessment, and it ain't in our budget.
Wow.
You know, so that's the sort of issues you
And this
start
was
to
in
face.
2000 and when?
This is between 2006, 2010.
Wow. I mean, I know the police get a hard time, and I know that obviously their budgets have been cut, and obviously there's not as a bigger police presence now as everybody would like. But back then, I thought the police were like pretty on it. Was it just because they looked at it as a white collar crime rather than it being a serious crime?
I think that's always been a problem. I think that's always been a problem, Terry. But I mean, it's interesting you say that. Up until 2010, 2011, I'd never come across the police ever. Don't even remember asking the police for directions. I've never had any reason to speak to or deal with them.
Right.
And then I started to find out what they're really like. Once I've been robbed for the first time, then I started to open my eyes as to what the old bill were really all about,
right?
How they behave, and just what they'll do if they either don't like you or if they're too lazy.
Right.
And I couldn't believe it. And this is the journey that started to change my life to the point where I've got to today. And the first robbery for me was pivotal in
so you've had these
shaping
people,
the rest of my life.
So you've had these people obviously pretending they want to buy watches, moody credit cards, moody bank accounts. So you've had that going on. That was the early start. And then that led up to, like you said, when somebody actually targeted the shop.
Yeah. I mean, the first robbery for me was the most traumatic, but not because of being robbed. It was because of what the police did to me afterwards.
Right.
So at the time, I'm a registered firearms dealer. I had an RFD, which licenses me to own firearms. I used to deal in not just watches, but I used to deal in antique jewellery, antiquities, antique firearms, anything that was beautiful,
right?
Like historical value. So I had a firearms licence, and I standing at the counter one day. I've got one of my kids in the shop. And the first I know about it is a couple of guys with masks at the window trying to smash my window. The noise was horrendous from inside, but they couldn't get in because we got all the proper gear. They then tried to smash their way through the door. They've got through the door. It was a listed building. There were certain things we couldn't change, which enabled them to break through.
Right.
I'm then faced with two men. One's got an axe. One's got a sledgehammer. Saying they're going to kill me. They're filling up their bag out my window, my life savings, my parents' inheritance, everything I've got really is in the window. And they're telling me they're going to kill me. There's one of them took a swing at me with an axe that literally went past my face and embedded itself in the display, all on CCTV.
Were you not insured?
At that time, I was self-insuring.
So what did that mean?
That means that every year you put, say, 20, 25 grand away in an account,
right,
and hope that you didn't get robbed.
Wow.
And if you did that for 10 years, 25 grand, it's a nice little earner, right? You've saved the money. Unfortunately, I lost out. These days, everyone insures, but back then, insurance was probably more expensive than the risk was worth.
Right.
So it was 50-50. Looking back, it was a mistake.
I mean, normally when there's a robbery, and I'm not an expert in robberies, but when I'm talking to people that are, they've actually said, when you go in, you cause the confusion with the noise, you get the stuff, you go, right? You don't actually hurt anybody unless they make themselves busy. But obviously, they were actually trying to fucking hurt you. I mean...
Well, I did make myself a bit busy. That was one of the reasons. So,
I suppose if it's your shit that's getting nicked, it's not insured. You're like thinking you're actually stealing this from me. So obviously, if someone...
I hadn't long lost my mum.
Right.
I hadn't long lost my mum, and everything my mum and dad worked for was in that shop window. And I thought, you bastards ain't taking out without a fight.
Right.
And I had one of my daughters in the shop with me as well.
That makes it worse, right?
Yeah. So when I've got somebody with a black mask on and an axe over their head telling me he's going to kill me because the safe room is now behind us, they've got what they wanted out the window. Now they want what's behind us. And what's standing behind me and them and what they want out the back is me and my kid.
Right.
Right? So I'm thinking, I've got to do something here. So I've ran into the back room, the safe room, took a gun out of one of the cabinets, didn't even have time to put more than one cartridge in the gun.
Right.
And I went back out and I let it go in the ceiling. I had no wish to hurt anyone.
Right.
I'm a responsible firearms holder. If I wanted to be a villain, That was my chance.
I've got to be honest with you, Paul. That if I was in that situation with my daughter, it'd be very difficult to not actually use it on them because
It is difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, you showed amazing self-restraint there, Paul. I've got to applaud you.
It was difficult. Let me tell you, it's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life.
But I take it that was meant they left.
That got rid of them.
Right.
Thankfully, they dropped the bag as well.
Wow.
So I got 99% of the stuff back.
Did you do one of them movie star things where when you shot in the centre, it's going to be you next? And I went, ah!
Yeah, look, the gamble was that the first shot got rid of them because there weren't a second one.
Right.
But I weren't proud of myself, that's when my problem started. The robbery was insignificant.
Right.
Because the old bill turned up about an hour later, right? They've walked in, had a look around. There's a great big hole in the ceiling.
What was the gun? Was it like a shotgun?
Shotgun,
Oh,
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah. And they've taken the CCTV, said, right, come and give a statement up at the station, let us know what happened, right, blah, blah, blah. I mean, a little bit of shock, I've just been robbed,
You had your life threatened,
I've had
your
my life
daughter's been
threatened.
traumatised. How old was your daughter?
At the time, 18.
Oh, right, okay. I thought she was like 10 or something.
No.
Right, okay.
Got back to the station, they've reviewed the CCTV and nicked me. Discharging a firearm in a public place.
I mean, it's just
You
insane.
couldn't make it up, could you?
I mean, yeah.
You couldn't make it up, right? So,
But I mean, is a public place, did they
well,
class your shop as a public place?
Yeah, because you
right.
have an implied right of access. It's a public place.
Right.
So the bottom line is that I spent 6 months with the threat of going to jail for 5 years, being taken away from my wife, my daughters, my family, my business, for nothing more than trying to protect the life of my child, me, and protect my business. The whole town was up in arms. The local MP got involved.
I don't think anybody watching or listening to this would think there's anything wrong with what you did there.
Apart from the police.
I don't get that. Because
They were willing to go with it.
so the guy's swinging an axe at you, saying he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
You shoot a shot up in the ceiling.
They were
Did you
willing
actually say to him, would you prefer if I've actually shot him? Would you have preferred...
I think when you're in that situation with the police, you keep your mouth shut,
Right, okay.
and let them do what they got to do. They tell you one thing, but they really want another, because I was making a lot of complaints about the lack of progress as well. By the way, Terry, let's get this right. The people that robbed me left DNA.
Wow.
The police identified the culprits within 48 hours through DNA.
That's amazing. Did they
So-
actually get him, though?
No. Took 3 months. 3 months to find the courage to go and arrest them.
Right.
Or to question them. And when they did, they pulled one in, questioned him, and then said, can you send your mate in? We need to speak to him as well, right? A complete and utter farce. You couldn't make this up. This was Keystone Cops on steroids, right?
I mean, normally they'd arrest them both at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Take them in.
Question them.
And once you've got the DNA, I mean, then they're going to jail, right? There's
Yeah,
no...
they pretty much banked the rights, really.
Yeah.
They got off, or so they got off. They weren't charged on a fair enough technicality. In it. The DNA was mobile. Their story was that they'd had their bags stolen from a gym, usual stuff, right? I understand that part. But the lack of interest from the police in nicking them in the first place, compared to the enthusiasm of nicking me, was in complete contrast. I made lots of noise about it. The MP made noise about it. Then I've got the old bill on the radio saying that a 54-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the robbery in the jewellers in East Grinstead. Well, that 54-year-old man was me.
Right.
It weren't the robber. Wow. So they're giving the public the impression that they've arrested someone in connection with a robbery when all they've done is arrest the victim.
Wow.
6 months until the CPS said, nah, and threw it out the window.
Right.
But
But
going
that's
to
6
bed-
months of you worrying, thinking, am I going to jail now for protecting...
And my solicitor's saying, Paul, if this goes wrong, you're looking at 5 years.
Wow.
This is a serious offence. But that changed my life, the way the police dealt with me.
Do you think it was because Had you upset the police, or did
No,
they not like?
never come across them before in
Right,
my
okay.
life.
But I suppose for them, it's low hanging fruit, isn't it? You've, like you said, got a farmer's license. You've discharged your farm in the ceiling.
You hit the nail perfectly on the head. Low hanging fruit.
Right.
You know, if you give the police two choices, a tough job or an easy job, they're always going to take the easy one. I mean, mate, this pales into insignificance to the last robbery.
I think if you, I mean, you know, I know a couple of high-ranking police officers. I know some people that work in Scotland Yard, and I've got to say, if any of those people were on your thing, they would be on them.
Yeah,
they'd be done.
I
Do you know
agree.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think you must have just been unlucky that you had the wrong police officer,
Sussex Police.
or whoever it was. You know, they obviously looked at it, and like you said, maybe they were lazy. Maybe they've never had anything like that happen in East Grinstead.
Well,
so,
you know, normally it's like, hold the front page, there's a sideboard for sale, you know, so, you know, you'd have thought...
there's a guy farming a shotgun and descending. It's a little bit more interesting.
I don't know whether they got overexcited or underexcited, but they treated me appallingly, Terry. You know, there's no other story of this. There's no their side of the story. This is a very straightforward case of they treated me terribly.
But the guys never got prosecuted.
Never got prosecuted, no.
Obviously, you didn't get prosecuted, thank God. But then, dealing with the aftermath of that, what did it make you sort of think, I'm actually going to move shops, or did you add in some additional security measures, or did you just think, I've got to dust myself off and just crack on?
Dust myself off, you know. I mean, we don't give up easily, do we, us London lads? You know, so you pick yourself up and you go again, and I did. A year later, we had it again. Very similar incident.
A year later?
A year later.
Wow.
Don't know if it was the same firm. I don't think so. But this time they didn't actually get in. They were at the window, fully armed, knives this time.
With the
machetes,
balaclavas on?
Balaclavas, yeah. Attacking the window. We'd made so many improvements to the security that this time they couldn't get in. We're battling with the local council because it's a top grade listed building. It was built in like 1450 or something. So, you know, to change a plug socket, you got to get permission, you know. So we've gone against all the rules, changed all the doors, changed some of the brickwork. They didn't want us to do that. I said, well, if someone comes and robs me again, you pay, you know, because I can't work with a door that breaks open easy.
Did you? So obviously you said the CCTV. Did you have like a panic alarm as well?
Yeah, we had all that. Yeah.
Right, okay. But I take it, even though you pressed that, it still took them an hour to come.
Still took them an hour. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it gets worse. I mean, like so the second robbery was like neither here nor there really. I mean, the police turned up 40 minutes or whatever later. They've never there quickly. And the first thing they said when they walked in was, hope you didn't do anything silly this time. You know, not, oh no, you poor bugger, not you again. You know, it was like, you know, just, I don't know what it was. They'd taken a dislike to me, my business. Maybe, look, I was bringing some pretty big names to the town. Some people loved it because it brought business to the town. I mean, there was a nice clothes shop just up the road from me, and they said to me one day, Paul, do you know what? Since you've been here, our takings have almost doubled.
You said, well, when am I going to get a fitting? Send some shirts my way.
Yeah, exactly. But we was bringing some nice people to the town.
But genuinely, like, I know when people go shopping, and this is obviously a problem for London right now, right? Because people would go shopping and they would buy whatever, but then they'd have something to eat, they'd have something to drink, they'd walk into another shop, and, you know, you go and buy a watch, and you go, oh, what's that club shop up there?
Exactly.
You walk in, I'll buy a pair of shoes, I'll buy a suit. Actually, you know what, let's go and have a bit of lunch. There's a bottle of wine.
Exactly.
So what you were doing really was, I mean, I doubt most people would go to East Grinstead unless they had a reason, right?
Terry, let me tell you something, mate. I dragged that town from a place where it was to a very good place because of the level of quality of people that I was bringing to the town in general.
Yeah.
The restaurants were doing well. People loved it. You know, I think they loved me because I was bringing them good business. But there's also a certain element that probably looked at me and thought, you flash git with your watches and this, that and the other. And, you know,
You're lowering the tone of this lovely, quaint
yeah,
village.
you've got Rolls Royces parked up outside your shop and then someone pulls up in a Lambo. They don't like it for whatever reason. And I think there was an element of that with the police.
You were liking it because you're like, oh, there's another 10 grand, there's another 5 grand.
Yeah. It was. You know, I think there was an element with that with the old bill. They didn't seem to appreciate it.
Right.
And I said to me nephew, who worked with me, funny enough, he only works around the corner. He's got his own place in Canary Wharf now.
Right.
And he was working with me at the time. I said, Alf, I said, like, next time we get done, they'll get us outside.
Right.
Because we've firmed up so much here that we've made it pretty much impregnable.
Right.
So if they come again, we're gonna cop it outside next time.
Right.
And unfortunately, a year, 18 months after, that's what happened. We copped it outside, and it was bad. Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, you know, I've heard different things where people stake out places. I've heard about people have tried to shut off roads and, you know, like machetes and you know, trying to come in the shop. One of the scams. A friend of mine, I can't say which watch dealer it was, but he actually said to me, they used to have a guy from Royal Mail that used to come and collect watches and then take them, you know, registered post or whatever, because they do that sort of next day delivery thing.
Yeah.
And he said, we have the same postman every single thing at the same time. And this guy come an hour early and he come up and said, I'll come and collect the thing. And he goes, where's whoever? Oh, he's not well today. Oh, right, okay. Got any ID? Oh no, I haven't got any ID. And it put it on him, and then he fucking ran out the thing. But you know, if he hadn't have been switched on,
they do everything, mate. I mean, they come dressed as DHL drivers, Uber drivers. You know, they'll come. They come in all shapes, sizes, colours, sexes, genders, whatever you want. They'll come after you, right? So I can believe anything in the watch business.
Do you think they, like for you, do you think they staked you out, or do you think they just knew that shop shut at 6, you'd be wandering about or getting in your car?
Yeah, they stake you out. I've had trackers on my car. I've had, you know, people covertly checking me out, overtly checking me out. Sometimes they don't give a shit if they see you.
Right.
Or if you see them, because it ain't them that's going to come back and do the robbery. You know, these criminals know how the law works. I mean, I had a guy standing outside my shop once, no more than 15, 20 feet away from my shop. And as sure as night follows day, he was casing out the shop, right? I know he was. He knows that I knew he was, but he didn't give a shit because it weren't him that was going to be coming back to do it.
Right.
What have I got on him, Terry? Nothing. If you ring the police up and say, I've got a suspicious-looking bloke outside looking at my shop, they'll go, and? What do you want us to do? You know, they're not interested. But understandably, he's not committed any crime.
Right.
And if the crime happens that same afternoon, it ain't him. He was just a spotter.
Right.
So you've still got nothing on him. So they don't really care. They know this.
And obviously talk us through what happened on the
third occasion.
Did you have any sort of awareness of anything different, or did you literally just walk out and then it happened really quick?
Very normal day. Very normal day. I bought a very nice watch that I'd always wanted. I'd always aspired to owning. Never really found a justification in spending the money on it because I was more interested in turning money into more money.
Right.
Rather than, you know. But as I said, I'd not that long ago lost my mum. I'd lost my dad a few years earlier. And I finally decided to buy a watch that I'd always wanted with money that my mum and dad had left me. Bless their hearts. So I bought this watch. It was like 50 grand. And we left the shop one afternoon, me and my nephew. And as I got back to the car was parked around the corner. All I really remember at this point was hitting the remote on my vehicle and a massive smash on the side of my face.
I want to say a huge thanks to our sponsors, Fragrance du Bois. Now, for those of you that don't know about Fragrance du Bois, where have you been? It is one of the leading luxury fragrances, only available in Harrods, Selfridges and Neiman Marcus in New York. They've got so many different fragrances for men, for women. All of the fragrances are unisex, so make sure you get involved and sample the delights of Fragrance du Bois. For all the Criminal Connection podcast crew, we've got a special discount for you. 10% off. All you need to do when you click on the link below and choose your luxury fragrance is to put in CCPOD10 for the 10% discount.
And I remember the first thing that went through my mind was, Alf, what did you hit me for? You're my nephew.
Right.
What? Because there was no one else around that I could see.
So it happened really quick.
Happened really fast. They came from behind. But it wasn't my nephew, obviously. It was someone they'd hidden. They plotted up, hidden behind some rubbish bins. As soon as I'd walked past the rubbish bins, they came out from behind. Still don't know what they hit me with, but it damaged every single tooth in my mouth.
Right.
I'd just not had them done long. And they smashed them all, broke them all. I was unconscious for a short while. They attacked my nephew. He was badly injured. Two very big, powerful men. And the bit that hurt me was, as I started to come round, it was a bit like Tyson Fury when he got knocked down. All of a sudden, I woke up and jumped up, right? And as I was coming round, I remember him saying to me, give me that fucking watch. And he's trying to get this watch off my wrist. I remember him doing that, but then the next thing I remember is looking and it had gone. There was a bit of a gap in between. But I will always stand up for myself. I mean, when I got up, me and my nephew put up the best fight that we possibly could. We came second. But there's not much you can do when you're in. I mean, I'd just come round. My nephew was left unconscious. They went to town on us with weapons.
Right.
And they ended up dropping the motorcycle that they was on. They couldn't get it started. It wouldn't start because it had flooded. So they hijacked a passerby in their car, stole their car, went off. Anyway, the old bill again. They've come along. We've got blood-stained shirts. We've been fighting with them. There's hair. There's all sorts of shit everywhere. Teeth. And all they were really interested in is, were we carrying any weapons? What was our involvement? They told me that the cameras in the town weren't working. We discovered, or we traced their route back through eyewitnesses. The police failed again and again and again to follow up on any of the evidence that we took them. If they'd have just looked at the cameras, the CCTV cameras at Junction 6 of the M25 at 4:30 on that Friday afternoon, they'd have arrested those people.
Right.
Because they did a car swap. And we know that from eyewitnesses. They were absolutely useless, mate. Absolutely useless with a capital U.
And they didn't get caught either?
No.
Wow.
I know who did it. I say I know who did it. I know who lined it up.
Right.
You know, people talk. And I know who's behind it. You're often set up by someone you know.
Wow.
Sadly, in this business. And, yeah, okay, so proving that he did it is one thing. But again, you know, that shirt covered in blood, mostly my nephew's, but could have been some from the attacker, still lies in a carrier bag today. The police have never, ever examined it for DNA.
Wow.
Apparently they didn't have it in the budget.
I mean, I know this sounds mad, but is it too late to do a private prosecution on that?
Well, I think you've got a statute of limitations.
Right. Yeah, so you'd have missed that, yeah.
I think we've missed that. But at the end of the day, you know what? Please God, one day karma will, you know, take place.
I mean, you know, lots of people don't believe karma exists, but I think
I do.
if you do something like that to somebody,
Yeah.
it is going to come back in some shape or form. It might not be a violent thing. It could be somebody you love dropping down dead, or something affecting your life in a bad way.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not. I mean, you know, I take it you never pursued anything. Again.
From a personal viewpoint, look, there's been offers there. There's been offers there.
Right.
You know, plenty of offers. But that's not my life.
Right.
You know, I've never been a criminal. Right. I don't pretend to be a tough guy. I don't pretend to be a villain. Right. I'm a businessman and I'm a grandfather. Yeah. And my grandkids need me. My kids need me. I can't be spending time behind a door because of a watch.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the way I look at it. You know,
Yeah.
I think that one day karma will come back and bite them on the arse.
Yeah.
If not, when they get upstairs to the biggest decision maker of all, hopefully they're going the
He'll
other
have
way.
to book it, be going,
Yeah.
about this watch.
Yeah, that's the open.
Yeah. And after that incident, Paul, was that your sort of time where you thought, you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm getting out?
I've been battling with my wife, bless her. I've been married for 34 years now. I've been battling with her for a while because we were living in a very nice house, but it had 50 grand for security, gates, barred windows, beams going around the house,
Right.
dogs. You know, it's like living in a prison or war camp.
Right.
And she's, you know, trackers on my car, people following me, people following her. It's getting out of hand now,
Right.
right? And she's on my case saying, you know, Paul, I've had enough of this. Well, that day,
Right.
she turned up well after I'd been robbed. I've got half my teeth missing. I've got a black eye. My nephew's got a broken jaw. And she's looked at me, said, you had enough now.
Wow.
You're going to stop before they kill you.
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? That is the problem.
Well, I've lost 3 friends in this business over the years that are dead. Now
And was
dead.
that through robberies or?
Through the watch business, yeah. Through the watch business, dead, gone. And all pretty much, younger than I am now. 2 guys and a woman. So, you know, these people don't mess about, Terry. They're serious people. Very serious people. So you have to take it very seriously, the threat. Every morning when you leave your home, it's like a surveillance operation all by itself. You know, I had cameras that were all around my car. I can see if someone's behind the car, behind the bins, behind the garage.
And of all the people that are, you know, the watch dealers that are still obviously active now, they're all having this. I mean, it must make it really hard for them because, you know, every day you hear somebody's getting ram-raided or someone's been followed or someone's been attacked.
So they live a very hard life. Look, I'm not asking anyone to feel sorry for them because they reap the rewards.
Right.
Watch dealing is financially, it's a good business to be in. But it's not without its risks.
Right.
You know, it's one of the most dangerous jobs that you can do, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't really know many watch dealers that haven't been robbed.
Right.
I don't know any watch dealers that haven't been scammed at least.
Right.
Unless you've been robbed, the joke is you ain't earned your wings. You know, you're not a proper watch dealer unless you've had a gun stuck under your nose. You know.
Wow.
So, I mean, my nephew that I spoke about, he went on to have his own business. They drove a Range Rover. He was in a big building like this. They drove a Range Rover through reception
Wow.
at night, 2:00 in the morning. They drove a stolen Range Rover clean through the reception into the courtyard and then rammed into his office, which was round. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. It's like a film.
Wow.
It's like a film. Again, police, nothing,
Wow.
no arrests.
And you obviously said, you know, that was your cue to obviously exit the business. But then you said, obviously, you felt compelled to educate people through social media and through what you do about the preventive methods they could do. And like you said earlier about people not flashing it on Instagram and social media.
Yeah.
A lot of people did that. And a lot of the footballers, you know, they all got robbed. But what, you know, I mean, right now, in the past few years, there was that guy in the city who had a fake Patek Philippe watch.
Yeah.
That the doorman rung
Yeah.
and said, "There's a guy in here with a watch,"
Yeah.
and the geezer got stabbed to death for a
Gave
fake
him up,
watch.
yeah.
There was also, you know, around Mayfair. It seems to be, if you're in Mayfair, if you're in Chelsea, if you're in Bond Street, if you're in
Westminster,
Knightsbridge,
yeah.
anywhere nice,
Yeah.
right, you're a target. And, you know, whether it's the waiter, whether it's people in a restaurant, the spotters, whether it's the security, whether it's someone outside, the beggars come up to you going, "Oh, can you help me?" And they're looking to see what you got, telling their mates. I mean, I know all the moves because
It's an
obviously...
industry.
Yeah. So actually seeing them, and I always clock them, and it always makes me laugh because I'm like, you're so fucking obvious. And it's like, you know, if I can see it, why can't anybody else? You know what I mean? And there's people that have, you know, I think somebody said, I don't know if it's 100 watch robberies a month in the hotspots of London, which
I think you find it's more than that.
really,
Yeah, oh yeah.
wow. So
It's
if anything,
more than
that's underreported.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of them don't even get reported
Wow.
for many reasons.
Right.
But it's got to the point. I think things have actually got better.
Right.
And I'd like to think that.
Is that because everyone's wearing Apple Watches?
Yeah. I think. Well, do
Yeah,
you know
mate,
what,
have it.
Terry? That is one of the reasons. I mean, look, I think I'm not wearing a watch. You're not wearing a watch. You know, we're in central London.
Do you know what? I always used to wear a watch, and I basically stopped wearing watches, stopped doing, and people said to me, "Oh, why aren't you wearing a watch?" And I was like, "What's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point of putting? Because I know what I'm like. So if I'm walking down the road and someone's giving me the watch, I'm not gonna just go, "Yeah, mate."
Yeah,
so what?
yeah.
And people are saying, "Well, they're fucking stab you. They don't care." So you just think, do you know what? I'm not in this game anymore. Because I know what I'm like, and there's, like you said, you've got kids. There's no point risking your life for a bit of metal.
No,
You know what I mean? You might as well just
yeah.
not wear it,
Exactly.
and then you ain't gonna have that
Don't give
problem.
them the chance.
Yeah.
So now I feel a lot because I don't keep anything at home now.
Right.
Nothing. When the pizza man comes, well, we have to scratch around in the drawer to see if we've got enough money to pay the pizza man. And I kid you not, mate. I keep nothing at my house now of any value.
Right.
So let them come.
Well, there's no point. I mean, and everyone I know who has got anything worth having, they put it in a safety deposit box.
Exactly. But that's where.
And it's like, and honestly, there's so many of my friends who have got these watch winders, and they have them in their house on the side and all that. And you sort of go in there and you think, if I see that and I'm your mate, I ain't going to say anything. But somebody will go, oh,
and give you up.
that fella's just got a new watch, a new Patek Philippe watch, and he's got it in the watch one in his house. And then the wrong person hears that, and then you're getting done. You're either
trouble.
going to get mugged.
Terry, the sad thing is that 99% of people that are done at their home are given up by someone that they know.
Wow.
Whether deliberately or indirectly, they're given up by someone they know. But people have become educated, and this was part of my job on YouTube for years. It's like the footballers would come to my shop and they go, "Don't tell no one I've been here, keep it quiet, I don't, blah, blah, blah." And you say, "Oh, can we have a picture?" And they go, "Oh, no, sorry about it," and all that. They go home, 10 minutes, that's on their Instagram.
Yeah. Look at my new purchase.
And you think, "Jeez, what's up with you?"
Right.
You're telling me to keep it quiet, and then you go and put it on Instagram. But that stopped. They don't do that anymore. It's like Amir Khan got robbed in the street, didn't he?
Yeah.
So they've stopped wearing the watches in the wrong areas. They've stopped posting on social media.
I think the joke is you can only wear luxury watches in Dubai. In the Middle East, you can't
do you know
wear them anywhere
what?
else.
The funny thing is, you're pretty much safe as houses out there, aren't you? I was out there recently. I mean, it's a different environment completely.
But I suppose having that thing where if you steal someone's watch and they actually chop your hand off is probably a good deterrent, right?
It does kind of turn people off, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're not going to mess about. We are just going to put you in jail and chop your hand off.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll leave that watch.
I'll leave that one
Maybe
alone.
I'll find something else.
I mean, there is. I mean, look, I've got friends that live out there. I mean, there's a low level stuff out there,
Right.
but it's mostly not watch crime. There's not a lot of watch crime. I will say, I think you'll find that Dubai is becoming the new Tenerife.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of naughty boys going to live out in Dubai.
Right.
Yeah, I think it won't be long before they start getting hold of it.
Yeah, I think the problem is though you can't. You're in someone else's country there. In Tenerife you can get away with it, but yeah, I think there'd be zero tolerance.
They won't be. I don't think they'll be playing up out there.
Right.
But whereas you used to be, I mean, all the old boys, they used to go to Tenerife, didn't they? Get out of the way. We can't do that now. Right. Tenerife's no good to the chaps, is it? Because they just send you back.
Right.
So I think Dubai is, let's just say, not quite the place that it once was.
Right.
For the Brits, there are a few people out there now that you think, it's interesting that you're living there, But
do you know what? There's a lot of super wealthy people moving out there as well.
Yeah, there is.
And a lot of people, there's a lot of opportunities in the Middle East at the moment, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Saudi. There's a lot of people that are saying, well, actually, if I want to work in, construction or, infrastructure or, media or anything like that, there's a wealth of opportunities.
Well, there's a lot to be said for it. I mean, it's safer.
Yeah.
You see the nice side of the Islamic community. You know, I mean, I think the way that they act out there is superb. I think their values, their family values, are first class.
Yeah.
And I think the way they treat people in general is pretty good from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think
they
as
know
long
how
as
to
you
behave.
as long as you behave yourself,
Yeah.
you've got nothing to worry about.
And you know what's wrong? Yeah, you know, I've always behaved myself, so I've never had nothing to fear going out there. You know,
What would be good for our viewers and listeners, Paul, would be for you to give us your tips on how they can, if, you know, I'm sure out of, you know, the millions of people that are watching and viewing this show, there will be people that own watches. And what would be your sort of guidance to them so that they can obviously keep safe, not make themselves a target, and, you know, enjoy their watches?
very simple, really. Loose links sink ships. You know, don't tell your mates. I mean, your mates are going to know that you got a watch, right? But don't be in your face with it. Don't go out your way to go down the pub, down the club, golf club or wherever you go and go, oh, look at this, I just bought myself a new 5711, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So loose lips, that's the first thing. If you're going to keep your watches at home, which I wouldn't recommend, always keep the box and the paperwork separately. So keep them hidden away, not necessarily somewhere like a little safe, because that's the first place that the bad guys will go. It's the obvious place. I would rather keep 500 quid in a safe that was locked and a very expensive watch underneath one of the floorboards, because they ain't going to find that watch, but they will find the safe.
Right.
Especially if you're indoors. If they come and capture you whilst you're indoors, they put a knife under your throat and say, where's your money, where's your watch? You take them to the safe, right? Where else is there to go? You're not going to take them into the kitchen cupboard, are you? So
I'm just going to take you to my sock drawer.
yeah, I'm just going to take some sort. Yeah, so exactly. So try and think one step ahead of the bad guys. You've got to think like a bad guy to defeat the bad guy. If you do the things that are obvious, if you've got your watch collection and a couple of grand in your safe underneath the stairs, you're wasting your time. You might as well stick it in the drawer in the kitchen. You know, so have a decoy, and basically don't put yourself at risk. You know, always be aware of who's at your door. That's a big one now. The big one now is delivery men. Get yourself, a Ring doorbell or CCTV. That's important. Never, ever open the door to anyone with a face covering. I don't give a shit what it is. If they got dark glasses and a cap on, if they got a mask on, if they got a mask and a cap, even dark glasses, take them off. I'm not opening this door until you take off your glasses.
But why is that?
Because that is the first sign that someone, look, I've never known a bad guy to come up to anyone like me and you are now. Right. Unless it's in the street, they'll do it sometimes. Right. Usually, when they come to your home, if we're talking about home invasion, they're always forensically aware. They're always CCTV aware. They'll know that there's cameras, so they're going to be wearing at least a pair of dark glasses, a cap, or whatever, something that will disguise them. Right. That's your big giveaway. Right. That's your first big red flag.
And how could one of my mates who's an accountant, he actually parked his car. This was at 5:30 in London, and he literally parked his car, got out of his car, and as he's walking over the road, this guy dressed up as an Uber Eats guy come up to him and said, "Oh mate, you got the time?" And he went, "I'm busy." And then the guy said, "I've got a knife," and he turned around and the guy's there with a knife, and he legged it. Do you know what I mean? But that was, if he'd have gone, he didn't have a watch on, right? But if he'd have gone, oh, it's, because you see the Uber Eats thing and you think, oh, the guy's all right. Yeah.
Look, Terry, I would never encourage anyone to buy a fake watch because I hate the fake watch industry.
Well, also, what's the point? Because it don't matter, because no one's going to know, are they? No. You're going to get stabbed or robbed regardless.
The only place that a fake watch has, the only role that it has to play is as a decoy at your home. Right. So if you're out on the beach in Spain or something and someone offers you a moody Rolex, then you know what? There's a case for saying, well, buy one, take it home and put it in the safe. Right. Put it in the safe and leave it there. It's a pile of shit. Just put it in the safe. And if they come for you, you go, mate, I'm not going to argue. Here's the key. Let them have a monkey and a fake Rolex.
Right. The thing is, though, I don't know anybody who has any cash anymore. And like you said, anybody who's got anything of any value puts it in a safety deposit box. So
9 times out of 10,
there's not really, I suppose in a way, that the people that are. I mean, you said you think it's getting better. Do you think it's just because people are becoming more astute now, so that if they are going to somebody's house, they're not getting what they want, and if they are trying to target somebody in a restaurant, people aren't wearing. I mean, everyone I know wears Apple Watches now. So.
Yeah, I think people have become educated. Like I said earlier on, I go back to what I said. I think we've saved a lot of people a lot of heartache and a lot of money and a lot of pain over the years, educating them. So the education has been massive. The education of not flashing what you've got on social media has been huge. They haven't been discouraged by the activities of the police because it's still, a hugely under-arrested. The arrest rates are poor.
Right.
But I think generally people have just become more aware.
What I'm interested in, Paul, and like you get a watch, and for anybody who hasn't ever had a watch or has owned a luxury watch, obviously you have the box, you have the papers. There's a serial number on it, and obviously if you steal a watch or if you buy a stolen watch, obviously you can't just walk in a Rolex and go, "Oh, could you service this, please?" Because they just take it off you and ring the police. So, my questions for you is: these things are being stolen, but where are they going, and how are they sort of circumnavigating that thing? Because
it's a good question, Terry. I'll try and give you a shorter answer. There are two different markets. There's the black market and the regular market, and then there is another market in the middle actually as well. But the black market is where a guy will steal a watch and sell it to another guy who knows it's stolen.
Right.
That's one way. The middle way is, or the other way that is most common, is that they will steal it and they will try and quickly recycle it into the legitimate world. In other words, let's say I'm the thief. I will then try and find a buyer, this time say it's you again, but you don't know it's stolen.
Right.
So I'm trying, and then when you've bought it, you then might sell it to him, and he doesn't know it's stolen. So all of a sudden, it goes from being hot with me, knowingly hot, to an innocent punter that doesn't know it's hot, to another innocent punter that doesn't know it's hot, who then takes it in the Rolex to get it serviced, and then it's discovered.
Right.
Having the papers doesn't always necessarily mean that the watch is not stolen.
Right.
Having the papers doesn't always necessarily mean that the watch is genuine. Having the papers doesn't always necessarily mean that the papers are genuine. This is why if you're buying or selling a watch, you need to deal with a professional.
Right.
Someone who's been in business for a long time.
I buy something off of you,
Yeah.
right? And it's stolen, right? And then I go to Rolex and then they do whatever. Will they actually take it off them?
They will take it from you,
Right.
and I would give you your money back.
Right. Okay.
It's down to me.
What would happen if it if they took my watch, say, that I bought from you, say you weren't a watch dealer,
Yeah.
like you said, it was just somebody I met down a pub,
Yeah.
and then it was hot, and then I went, well, he sold it to me.
You're knackered.
They're not going to go after him. No, it'd just be like
They won't even come after you.
Right.
It's not their business. They're not the police.
I didn't know if they there was some sort of like thing where they would notify the police and say,
Oh, they'll notify the police.
Right. But then
whether the police will do anything or not is another thing.
Right. Okay.
But no, you've lost the watch. Again, that's why it's important that you deal with professionals, because they will guarantee that the watch you're buying isn't stolen. They'll do their checks. I mean, we have Watch Register, we have Digital Watch Vault, which I'm a part of.
Yeah.
Which is all about registering your watches and making sure that you keep the provenance on a blockchain. That's the important part.
Right.
Deal with a professional and don't just pick up someone out of the Yellow Pages or off of Google. Do some research.
Right.
How long have they been in business? Do they have a VAT number? Do they have a premises? What's their reviews looking like? This is very important. I mean, I'll get tired of people going, "Oh, I've just been ripped off for a watch." They go, "Who'd you buy it from?" "I don't know, some geezer, blah, blah, blah." I looked him up online. He was selling a couple of watches on Facebook, and I think, well, there you go.
But so you said there's three. So the first one is there's the hot to hot.
Yeah.
There's one where there's the hot to the normal punter, and then what's
And
the other
then
one?
there's the more criminal gang-wise where they're being exported to other countries.
Right.
And this is when we go back to the BBC. that I mentioned earlier. They asked me to do this documentary with them. We had and still have a big problem with gangs in London and around the UK, but predominantly in London. They are mostly Albanian gangs.
Right.
There are a large element of Somali gangs out there as well. They are active. They have a particular means of operation. They work in a certain manner. I highlighted this to the police and to the BBC. What did they do? They went and got some young black lads from a South London estate and blamed them, basically. Right. You know, so it's like, it's the teenage black community's fault. You know, now look, there are elements of our young black community that are up to it. There are elements of our young white community that are up to it. Right. But the BBC ignored the truth, and the truth is it was Somali gangs and Albanian gangs that are predominantly stealing these watches to order. So wherever they're sending them, I don't know. I suspect it's probably Italy.
And then they go to Italy, but then am I right in saying that when you have registered your watch, is it worldwide or is it just in the UK?
It's okay. With digital watch vault, it's worldwide, but it's still growing. There's still big money to be made there, Terry. Big money.
So if somebody can get it out the country, then if somebody buys it in Albania or in Italy, they could probably go to Rolex there and get it serviced, and nobody would be any of the wiser.
Rolex might be a problem, but they don't worry about that. That's not their concern. I mean, look, if they can blag £200,000 for watches in a week, do you know what £200,000 buys you in a country like Albania or Romania?
So I suppose they can find someone to service it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you're living like a lord. You know, you can buy the biggest town, the biggest house in the city or the village, and you know, have the best car, and you know. So, look, I'm not saying that all these people are bad, but you know, I'm just telling the truth. These are the facts, mate. Right. And unless we deal with the truth, we're never going to deal with the problem.
So how do you think we can solve the watch crime in the UK?
Sentencing. Right. Simple as that. It's a no-brainer. It's sentencing. I mean, when these guys do get caught, they're getting suspended sentences. Right. You know, they're getting 12 months in the nick. They're out in 6. They've just robbed someone of £100,000. Well, they ain't going to earn £100,000 on the street or going out.
If you'd have done like an armed robbery back in the day, and you were getting 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, whatever it was, they'd be getting 10, 15 years,
that was proper bird back then.
So you think that the sentences should be in line with that? So
I think they should. I'll tell you what I think they should be. There should be a minimum of a 5-year sentence for a violent street robbery, a minimum of a 5-year sentence, no parole. Right. So if the moment violence is used, 5 years, no parole. And that wouldn't increase our prison population. It would actually decrease it. Right. Because the lads don't want to go away for 5 years. But they don't mind going away for 12, 18 months. Right. If the reward was worth it.
Because I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about the watch crime here. But when you sort of go overseas, I know Marbella is rife. I know Italy is rife. But parts of Spain is rife. But what shocked me was I went to I was in LA for a week, and then I was in Vegas for a week. And when I was in LA, a friend of mine who's in Beverly Hills, he actually said what the gangs are doing here is they're going into these nice restaurants on Rodeo Drive with shooters and literally just walking in and going, "Give me a fucking watch." So it's not even a can I have you? It's literally just people just and
it's the Wild West, mate.
I was like. And obviously in America, people are carrying guns and they can use them. So they're blatantly doing that. And then when I was in Vegas, I was, I've been going to Vegas on and off probably since 95, 96. And I've always enjoyed going. It's always been fun. And my mate runs all the clubs in Vegas. And I see him for dinner. And he said, tell your mates if they've got watches, be really careful. And I was like, "Why? What's happening?" And he said that they've got these girls that fly into Vegas and they will basically hang around the clubs, go to the beach clubs, going around the restaurants, see the guys with the watches and then be like, "Oh, hi, I'm on vacation, blah, blah, blah," and all that. Pal them up go and have dinner with them, go shopping with them, go out clubbing with them, and then literally tonight's a lucky night. Get them back to the room, put something in their drinks, and then just clean them out.
Bang, yeah.
And obviously, and he said that it's that sophisticated. It's not just you meet them in a club, put something in your drink, and then you watch. It's like they have a couple of days of
they build up to
grafting you, and then I really like you.
Yeah.
Can't blah blah blah. Get your trust and then turn you over. You know
The criminal industry in general is always evolving in it. They'll always think of a new way of getting that watch off your wrist. And if it takes 10 minutes in January, if things evolve where it has to take 2 days by November, they're willing to put the work in.
Well, the other thing that was funny was after that conversation, we was there for the boxing. So we went and watched the boxing. And then we was walking through the Bellagio, and there's a little bar there, and I said, let's have a drink. So there was like 5 of us, and we're at the bar having a drink. And these 3 girls walked past and went, oh, hey guys, where are you from? And all that. And a couple of my mates started talking to him. And within a minute, these 2 guys and this woman come over and said, do you know these girls? We were like, no. And they said, right. And then they pulled out the badges. They were like undercover cops, and they were like, took the girls off. Guys, be careful who you talk to. This is happening, blah, blah. We're going to make sure these girls aren't, at it, basically. And I was just thinking, wow. And it made me realise, and this was 2016, do you know what I mean?
Terry, this is the thing. We go back to what I said earlier on, is that the police worldwide, law enforcement worldwide, the courts worldwide, see it as a crime that has no real victim. If you can own a 50, 60 grand watch, you can afford to be robbed.
I think the people in Vegas took a different view to it, though, because the obviously if you're going there and you're wearing your watch, you're probably one of their eye rollers. You're probably spending money in a casino.
So they're trying to look after you in the casinos.
They're like, we got to get rid of these people. So
that's great.
Out there, they're on top of it.
Yeah.
But what I don't get is why we're not like that here. And you hear about there was I don't know how true this was, but there was these women called the Rolex strippers.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And they were going around like Waitroses.
Yeah.
And looking for older people.
I fell for it 3 times.
but every time it was a fake one. Oh God,
Yeah.
But they come up to you and they go, oh, hello, how you doing?
Yeah,
Do you know where this is? And then all of a sudden it's boom, and it's mad that
it's an industry.
Right.
The whole thing is an industry, and it still is an industry. It's just it's dropped back slightly, but it's still out there every day of the week, 365 days a year. Someone is at it because it's a lot of money on your wrist.
Right.
It's easy to transport. Try getting on a plane with £1 million for cocaine. See if you get through. It ain't gonna happen, is it? Right.
Right.
You get on a plane with £1 million for watches, stolen watches, no bother. No one's going to ask you anything.
Right.
And if they do, it'll be what are these? Are these yours? You go, yeah, they're my watch collection. Okay, no problem.
So where can you wear your watch then?
Where can you wear it? Indoors.
Just look at it when you watch the
Do you know the safest place? This is your part.
Look at my watch. Show your missus, show your kids.
Exactly.
I'm
a lot of people do that now.
I'm going to go and put it in the safety deposit box.
A lot of people do that now. Honestly, they do, Terry.
But what is genuinely like? What is the point of having a watch now? I mean, is it because from what I can see, obviously when COVID happened, obviously everything went up, right?
Yeah.
There was this scarcity of watches. Obviously, the watches all run up. I remember people telling me they bought watches for 10 grand and were selling for 30 and all this sort of stuff. And, the Patek Philippe watches were quadrupled in money and all this stuff. And then obviously it's like when everything opened back up, everybody sort of went, we're back to normal now. Then obviously there were people that got badly affected by COVID, and I think that increased crime quite a bit.
Yeah.
And as you're going through that, you're seeing more and more problems, and then it feels like the watches have. It feels like the market's crashed.
Yeah, it's dropped back a lot.
Is that due to the crime? Do you think, or do you think it was just literally it went up? It had to come back down.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different facets to the journey. I mean, we had COVID was a big one. And a lot of people had excess money after that. There wasn't enough watches, so that meant supply or demand outweighs supply, hence the prices went crazy.
Right.
They've dropped back dramatically now to a much more realistic, sensible level. They'll probably stay around where they are now for some time to come. But in general, look, people buy watches because they're a work of art. They consider them a work of art. I mean, you might buy a nice painting, right? You can't do much with it other than look at it.
Yeah.
You can't take it for a walk.
Yeah.
Can't wear it.
You can't wear it. A lot of people buy nice cars and stick them in the garage and hardly ever drive them. But they go out there and have a cup of tea and polish them. And so, there's that aspect to it. I think it was good that a lot of the younger generation came into the hobby. I think there's been some damage done to the industry, but nothing that's not repairable. I mean, the watch business is okay.
Do you think people are still going to invest in watches? Do you think people are still going to buy them? Or do you think that until, the crime either gets eradicated or, the law enforcement changed the...
Depends on the character.
But because if they changed the law and they said, look, if anybody does, like you said, they get 5 years.
Yeah.
Then obviously that may be a deterrent. And obviously if they enforce it and then people see it's being enforced, then maybe that
would encourage people.
Yeah.
And I think there's everyone's different. I mean, some people will say now, I'll never buy another watch because the risk is too high. Other people will say, I don't give a shit. Right. If you walk out in London today, you'll find plenty of people still wearing expensive watches.
Yeah, I mean,
they either don't know or they don't care.
I've seen a lot of people, and I'm always shocked. I think it's if you're aware, then you don't wear a watch.
Yeah.
If you're not aware, you're walking around with a watch on, thinking everything's fine.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're lucky, then great. But if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time,
sometimes I go out, mate, and I go, you're a victim. You're going to cop it if you ain't careful, Right. Because not only are they wearing the wrong watch, but they look like a victim. Right. No disrespect, but, if you look like a victim, you're going to become one, right? Right. If you've got the strut and, I'm not saying, you know what I mean? Some people
so if you want to wear your watch, you got to walk around like that. And all right, son, all right, tweak, oh.
That's it, but if you look an easy target,
right, you
probably are in many cases. If you're a 65-year-old 6-stone woman walking down Oxford Street wearing 150 grand Patek, you look like a victim.
Right.
If you're an 18-stone geezer with a neck like a bloody bulldog, and you look less of a victim. Right. Not that they always care, right, but they'll generally take the easier looking victim. Right. The easier target.
If you're 10 stone or under, you need to get in the gym.
Yeah, they say never judge a book by its cover, right? But they do.
And for you, Paul, like you said, you're at the watch game now. You've kindly shared some tips for our viewers and listeners if they have got watches, how to sort of keep safe. You've sort of said that you're going along that sort of political route now. So what was the inspiration for that?
Well, for years, I've sat back. I'm a London boy, I've sat back and I've watched our country change. I've watched the crime levels go through the roof. What started me on this journey, I think, really was understanding that the police are not what we believe them to be on a lot of occasions. I was brought up to always trust the police. If you got lost, ask a copper. They're the good guys. And the robberies started to show me that actually they don't really care most of the time. And I started to look at things in a different way.
So because of the way you was affected by crime and because you didn't get the support that you expected, that left a bad taste in your mouth.
Started me on a journey, Right. And I'm looking at the percentage of people that are trying to steal from me. And I go back to what I said earlier on, 95% of them more weren't British.
Right.
I'm looking at the face of my town changing, the languages being spoken, my kids coming home from school. At the time, having difficulties because people that spoke other languages were getting extra lessons and our kids were being ignored. And my eyes started to be opened a little bit. But I couldn't really say too much because you start getting labelled with all the isms and the phobes and all the rest of it, ridiculously. And then I just thought, you know what? There's a battle going on here. And if we don't fight it, our kids are going to have to. And I love my children. I love my grandchildren. I love all kids.
You obviously mentioned about the you know, the people that were trying to scam you, or the problems you had, you know, like you said, that they had sort of foreign accents. Do you think that this is linked? Because obviously there's a massive thing at the minute where I know the Conservatives were trying to deal with it and they didn't, and the Labour are saying that they're going to deal with it, but then they're saying that they're going to give lots of these sort of people that have come here illegally, they're going to allow them to stay here. Do you think that is a cause of the problem where they've people, because obviously you can't just rock up in a country and go, oh, can you give me some money and put me in a hotel?
No,
but do you think that's a cause of one of the causes of the problems, that they're just, that the people are allowed to come here and unchecked, and it just because
that's the come.
Because I keep seeing loads of things on social media where these gangs are advertising on TikTok and all these different things saying, come to the UK, it's great, you can have this, it's free, blah blah. So it's like these criminal gangs have sort of using social media to sell to people to basically say, if you want to have a good life, come to the UK. And in a way, I think it's mad. Listen, I'm all open. I'm absolutely up for. I don't care where anyone's from, where anyone's at. But if you come, if I go to somebody's country and I want to live there, I expect them to say, well, what are you going to do, Terry? Are you going to bring? Are you going to deliver some? Are you going to buy a house here? Going to deliver some value here? Come in. If you're just going to sit here and just sit here with your hand out
and misbehave,
go away. Do you know what I mean? And for me, I'm all open to, every thing I've ever done has always been about, giving people opportunities and working with people and, achieving greatness together. But I've noticed that, and I don't know if it's because we've gone in this kind of slightly weird era where everyone's sort of going, no, we've got to let people do this and we've got to be, let them come in, give them a house. And it's all like, why? Do you know what I mean?
It's fear. We've been bullied into a position where even speaking about it makes you a racist, a fascist, whatever cheap label they want to throw at you. The bottom line is this, is that bad immigration, introduced by Tony Blair in the 1990s, has changed the face of this country and not for the better. Now, we need immigration. I welcome immigration from the right type of people. But what we don't do, Terry, I always use this example. Let's say me and you are having a party at our house at the weekend. You want to know who's coming.
Right.
You don't invite the local round, do you, to your kid's birthday party. You don't invite the local burglar round, right, to go up in your bedroom and have a nose round what you got upstairs in your room. You want to know who's coming into your house.
Right.
Well, this is our house. We should know who's coming in. We should know who we're letting in to be around our kids. And when these people commit crimes, like, I was a victim of many frauds from people that are not indigenous to this country.
Right.
What did they get? Nothing. They shouldn't have even been here in the first place on many occasions. But when they're caught, they get virtually no comeback, no sentencing. They can't afford it, so we give them a £50 fine. There was a case the other day where a guy, I think he's only been here for a few weeks, pestering women on the beach. They gave him a £12 fine to be paid back. No, a £26 fine to be paid at the rate of £2 a month.
Right.
Just get rid of him. What use is he to this country? What use is, if he's been here a couple of weeks and he's already sex pesting women on the beach, what does that guy have to offer this country?
Like the world's gone mad. It is.
Well, it's crazy, but all we're interested in doing...
Is it just the UK that's doing this?
No, it's right across Europe. It's right across the world.
Right, because I know the Middle East don't tolerate it. I know Russia don't tolerate it. I know China don't tolerate it. So there are places that
won't,
you can't just rock up and just go, can I have... They'd be like, no. Do you know what I mean? So is that only... So you think it's a Western
it's thing? A Western problem mostly. I mean, look, at the end of the day, in an attempt to show the world how kind we are, we're being cruel to our own people.
Right.
And that's really where we're at. But I mean, at the moment, we're trying to unite all the good people of the UK. I don't care where anyone's from. I don't care what colour they are, what religion they follow. I'm a cultural Christian. I'm not a practising Christian, but I was brought up with Christian values. I don't care what anyone is, mate, as long as they're a good person.
Yeah.
I don't give a monkeys what religion they follow. They can follow the Planet of the Apes for all I care. They can follow the moon or the sun. I don't give a monkeys.
They can become Jedis.
Exactly. As long as they're good people, have good in their heart, love the country, appreciate what we have to offer, and join in, as in like, let's be a community.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, you know, the Conservatives kind of got wiped out in the election.
Yeah.
My personal view on it was, I think Rishi Sunak wasn't interested in being the Prime Minister. You know, he called. There was no reason for him to call that election when he did, and I just think that with all the infighting in that party, it was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. But if he'd have done it in January, because he all he kept going on about is I know what a biological woman is. You know, it's great. Inflation's down to 2%, and you're like, mate, the man on the street ain't feeling it. Don't matter what your official chart says.
You're not reading the room,
man on the street. He's still going in the shop and paying double for shopping.
Yeah.
He's still filling his car up, thinking that's expensive. He's still getting insured and taxed to the hill. So nobody's going, yeah, Rishi, you know, you're great. They're all blaming him, right? And when he called that election, I absolutely knew they weren't going to win. And I thought, you know, out of the you know, the Labour got in. I think Reform did very well. But you know, a lot of people don't like Nigel Farage. A lot of people will say he's a Marmite character. But I think with him, he says it how it is. And I think
It's
people
the best
listen.
we got, I think.
People listen to him and go, actually, this guy's what he's saying, you know, makes sense. Whereas, you know, I don't get. I mean, you know, someone who understands politics a lot better than me said Rachel Reeves, who's the Chancellor, she is an economist and she get the numbers right. So you've actually got somebody sensible in that position. And I wonder whether Keir Starmer was putting on a bit of an act to please all the because somebody said the other day he's actually probably he's probably the most conservative Prime Minister that we've had. But it'd be interesting to see what happens when they do the budget. And look, they've only just got in power, right? So I think you've got to give them a few months to see what direction. I hope.
Well, they've had about 10 days, haven't they? And they've already given millions and millions of pounds to people overseas. I mean, Terry, look, for me, we should be looking after our own people first. And I don't. When I say our own people, let me be clear. I don't mean people that look like me and you.
Right.
I mean our own people.
Right.
That already live here. They could be black, they could be Asian, they could be Chinese, they could be whatever.
Right.
We have people here paying taxes that can't get a hospital bed or a doctor's appointment or a place in a school or somewhere to live for themselves or their children.
But Labour said they're going to fix all this.
Oh yeah,
So I'm very excited. I'm like you. I'm sitting there going,
how are they going to pay for it?
Because someone said to me the other day, they said, you know, whatever happens, right, it can't be any worse. And I sort of buy into that because you know you'd think the Conservatives have normally been sensible. They've normally been pro-business. They've normally guided the country through, you know, rough patches. But it seems, I don't know what happened to them. It's sort of like they lost their way.
Well, they just became a Labour party, didn't they, really, in many respects. But look, you know, answer your question, I can only give you my opinion. Labour will tax everyone with a pound note to death.
Right.
And they won't be happy until no one's got a pound note left. They'll give more money away overseas than ever. They'll bring more people to this country than we've ever seen before. How we're going to pay for them, where we're going to house them, how we're going to feed them, where they're going to work. Their answer, I don't know what their answer to that's going to be, but we'll see. I mean, look, I think that we got 5 years of a real struggle in front of us.
Right. But
Until
then the
we can
good news is, when that comes up, they'll be gone.
It'll be,
Hopefully somebody sensible again.
Oh,
maybe it'll be you,
look,
Paul. Maybe it'll be the Paul Thorpe party.
do you know what, mate? I tell you, the first thing that I would do if I was in charge of this country, the first thing that I would do is I would nationalise the National Lottery, and I will pump every single penny. I'd take it away from the arts and all these odd societies, and I'd pump it all into the NHS. Let's get the NHS up and running.
Right.
The mark of a good nation is how you look after your young and your sick and your elderly. If you can't take of the young, the sick and the elderly, what have you got? And we ain't doing none of that at the moment.
Right.
Let's get our NHS back on its feet. Let's stop the illegal migration that is costing the taxpayer 15 to 20 million pounds a day.
Wow.
A day. Think about that for a moment. If we put half of that money into the NHS, half of that money into doctor training for people that are already here, training our own nurses, instead of stealing nurses from other countries, instead of taking doctors from Asia where they need them themselves, let's train our own doctors. We've lost our way, mate. We've lost our way big time.
But let's hope we can make Britain great again.
That would be good, and that nobody takes a shot at me.
Walking around with
one ear on.
That was actually. I mean, luckily for him, he did turn. But
wow,
I mean that again, you know, you sort of think, how could, you know, that happen? Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy that happened.
Well, when you look at the whole thing, it does make you wonder. I mean, like, I know that.
The narrative is the spotty kid went to the gun club and then he tried to take him out, and you sort of think it all just sounds a bit silly.
Listen, mate, we got a do coming up on Saturday, and if that level of security wasn't dealt with by our lads on Saturday, I'd be disappointed, let alone having the Secret Service involved. I mean, that guy had been spotted quite a long time before the shot was fired. What the hell he was doing up there in the first place, how he wasn't taken out or at least isolated before.
What gun did he have? Was it an AR-15 or something?
Yeah, but I think
it was a bit weird, like walking down the road with an AR-15 and nobody noticed.
Nobody takes any notice, yeah. I mean, I think it was a 223, which is basically, in this country, would be basically seen as a fox hunting round.
Oh, right, okay.
Small game round, so, you know, small deer,
right.
Fox.
So the guy wasn't really trying to assassinate him, he was just trying to...
Oh, that would assassinate you, mate. Don't worry about that.
Right.
A 223 would
right.
kill you stone dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Without a doubt.
Shows what I know.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be shot, but our laws say that round might be a bit light
right.
for big deer.
Right.
Which is actually going to weigh more than a man. So.
Right, wow. And what are your plans for the future now, Paul? You're 63, you're a granddad. What have you got anything that you want to do or anything you want to achieve?
I'd love to see my kids, my grandkids, being able to be brought up in a country that remains the country that we were brought up in, Terry. You know, free speech, relative safety, without the fear of being, you know, groped in the street and pestered and hassled.
Right.
I want to see them grow up in a country where crime is taken seriously, where the police without fear and without favour, and where they're not second-class citizens in their own country.
Right.
That's what I want. That's what I'll fight for.
Have you thought about writing a book, Paul, or not?
I've thought about it in the past.
Right.
I'm just too lazy.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. I'm far too lazy.
No, I just thought 4 decades in the watch business has a ring to it, you know?
Well, you know, I mean, look, as I said, I spent 4 years in the fight game, 4 years in football as well. Right. So the watches only really touch the sides. But, you know, I may do one day if I ever get around to it when I'm laying on the beach.
Okay. Well, Paul, listen, I've really enjoyed you coming on.
Been a pleasure.
It was great hearing your stories. Obviously, it was shocking hearing what happened to you, you know, when you was just trying to earn a pound note.
Yeah.
It was interesting hearing about your thoughts, obviously, on how people can protect themselves if they have got watches and what precautions they can take. But what is your YouTube channel if anyone wants to...
Just Paul Thorpe.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
if someone types in Paul Thorpe into YouTube, you'll find me. And, I mean, have a listen to what I say first. Before you judge me, please listen carefully to what I have to say on all subjects, because sometimes people get you wrong.
Right.
You know, I had someone the other day said, watched a bit of your channel, seen some of the thumbnails, not sure I like your politics. They went away. 2 days later, they came back and went, you know what, mate? Fair enough.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
That's what I would say. Listen.
Yeah. Well, Paul, you're always going to be the British Donald Trump to me.
I have to dye my hair ginger.
I'll lend you my wigs.
Yeah. Oh, Terry, it's been brilliant, mate. Appreciate it. All the best. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Criminal Connection podcast. Paul Thorpe, what an interesting guest. Make sure you tune in next week because we've got another great guest making podcast great again, the Podfather. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you like, subscribe and share, and we will see you on the other side.